the candidates speak, there'll be 4 minutes allotted. They can manage their time. They can either speak and save some time for questions, take all questions, but they manage their 4 minutes. Okay, so we'll start with announcements. Anybody have any announcements beside me?
That's one.
Oh,
Good, okay. Sue?
I just want to let people know that this year there's something different with Holiday Market. We start 1 week early, so 4 Saturdays from now, we'll be in there. Hope to see you there.
Hi.
Any other announcements? Nope.
As long as we're talking about Holiday Market, we're going to do our flash mob again on the first Holiday Market at 11:15. So if you missed it at the fair, this is your chance.
David?
OSU Extension Service Master Gardener Class of 2020 is accepting applications. Deadline is 4 November.
Okay, I would like to spend just a second to say something that seems a little bit odd for me to be saying it, but I'm going to say it. With the online conversations and conversations that we're having between ourselves, I think that the best way to put this is that we need to be respectful of each other. We need not to be calling each other names of any kind, okay? I mean, we have a name that's given, we have a nickname that we accept. To call anybody anything else besides what they want to be called by would be presumptuous and disrespectful. So we need to come to that agreement that we can't do that, whether it's online, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's in the heat of the moment. I don't care where it is. Name calling, yelling at people, cursing at people is not tolerated at Doherty Country Fair. And we need to agree to that. And I think it's important. I felt a little uncomfortable having to say that, but to move forward and to continue our success, we have to at least come to that basic understanding that we have to control ourselves. We have to think through what we're going to say online. Pause a minute. Read it before you hit whatever you hit. Okay, with that, we'll go to Treasurer's Report.
Thanks, Jack.
Linda Gingrich, Hillary Anthony. There's an interim report prepared for this meeting. There were 100 copies back there. I'm not sure if there's more. If you're interested in one and don't find one, contact the office. We can do reprints and distribute them. It's a very similar format to what it's been in the past. This is not a year-end report. This is an interim report, subject to revision and more information. The first page has the balance sheet and projections for how much cash we'll have at the end of the year, and that's how we've done it in the past. The second page is a very condensed profit and loss, which is generated by QuickBooks. Like all of our categories just get compressed down, but these are basically the QuickBooks numbers for September 30th, and then another projection of how much are we going to spend till the end of the year, and then the budget to actual is directly out of our QuickBooks. We attempt to get all crew members to turn in receipts for the event by September 30th. So we're trying to get at least a complete picture of the event, but of course we can't get a complete picture for the whole year because there's still more payroll, there's still the property taxes, there's very little income coming in, but there's still a lot of income. Part of what this report is saying is that we had an incredible year, and there's two things that contributed to, well, in a analytic sense. In a philosophical sense, there's a lot of things that contributed to the success of this year. A lot of people put energy in, and there's a lot of manifestations of hard work and creativity that put forward to it. But we got 58,000 people through the gate, and that's a record number of people. We don't budget for having a very high number of people. We budget for having about 47,000 people, knowing that we could go over and kind of, trying to do some planning based on, well, we could have a better year, but 58,000, even in the most optimistic projections, I think we used 55,000. So this was a really large year. It makes a difference of over $300,000 to our income to have 12,000 more people than what we budget for. So that's hugely significant. And then the other big significant thing is commemorative sales really kicked butt. And this is because of poster committee, this is because of staff working with the volunteers, this is because of the commemorative sales staff, and people who really care about the fair wanted to have some really beautiful images that commemorated our 50th anniversary. So there still will be more of those coming for people who missed those. Look for it. Well, I don't know yet how it's going to be distributed, but there will be reprints on those. But they had a stellar year as well. So that was about 100,000 more than what we expected coming in. The other thing on the bottom line, if you look all the way to the bottom, the other thing that's really contributing a lot to our income this year is that our endowment at Oregon Community Foundation has already increased in value by $64,000 in just the first 2 quarters of the year. It can fluctuate with the stock market, but that's a really big change. And just as a little note, like if you see a balance sheet, a profit and loss that has all the detail of our income, we group the event income, and when you look at the green ticket amount, that green ticket amount represents $1 for every paid admission if you count the 3-day admissions each as 3. So you can look at the green ticket income line item, and that's basically how many paid admissions we had. So just as a little key that you can kind of go, oh, why is the income so big this year? Well, the green ticket amount's 58,000. So that's how that works. And Linda has some information about our planning this year.
All right, this is I'm going to talk about the revenue projections, which is the pricing that we're going to be taking to the financial planning process with the Financial Planning Committee. Our focus this year is we're looking for ways to streamline the sale of various types of passes and inventory wherever it makes sense. The budget process is complex and unwieldy, so we're looking for ways to simplify that. Also, we want to continue to demonstrate the fair's commitment to being a family-friendly event. So with those goals in mind, we started looking at passes that are relatively low usage. So here's some of the changes that we're proposing and that will be discussed during the financial planning process. First, the first group has to do with children or youth under the age of 13, so 12 and under. So at age, what the proposal is for age 12 and under would be free. Currently, there's a youth pass. If you're 11 or 12, you buy a youth pass. So we're proposing that we remove that charge. They would still have to wear a wristband, but that it would be free. The impact to the revenue is about $2,500 based on 2018 and 2019 numbers. So this change would eliminate a relatively little used pass where the administrative burden of allocating the passes and collecting the funds is more than the revenue generated. Also, it fills the gap for those volunteering who have kids who are not yet eligible for teen crew. You have to be 13 to be on teen crew, but still want to come to the fair and be with their parents or guardians. The second proposal for this age group is to raise the age for requiring a purchase ticket to the event itself to 13. Currently, children under the age of 10 and under are free when accompanied by a paying adult. This proposal would change it to 12 and under when accompanied by a paying adult. Because we don't track 11 and 12-year-olds who buy tickets, we don't exactly know what the revenue would be, but based on the amount of the percentage of tickets that Fair Family have for that age group, I've used assumption that it would be similar, and it's it's a negligible revenue impact. So this proposal would demonstrate our support of the fair being a family-friendly event, as well as maintain consistent treatment between those who attend as a volunteer and those who attend as a paid public member. The second type of pass we're looking at, which has a low usage, is the Worker Day Pass for Wednesday and Thursday for booths. For crews, the Wednesday, Thursday are free, so we're not making any changes there. Currently, booth people pay $10 for this pass. Our proposal is to make this free for booth people as well. Friday, Saturday, Sunday Worker Day passes would stay the same at $20. The revenue impact based on 2019 would be $1,820 for 182 passes. Although this was 60 more than 2018, even with the 50th, it's still less than 200 people. The revenue is very low for the extra overhead of managing the passes and collecting the funds, especially for a pre-fair day, not even on the day of the event. The final pass proposal is to change the price for the Elder Worker Day passes for Friday, Saturday, Sunday to $20. They're currently $10. This is another type of pass that's very lightly used, I'll put it. There were 90 passes sold in 2019. So it could be 30 people with one each day, or it could be 90 people with just one day. There's no way to know. But obviously the revenue impact is negligible. The elders would still be able to take advantage of the Worker Day Pass at $20, which is the same Worker Day Pass as the booth people use, or they could get the $40 weekend wristband, of course. And finally, we'll be proposing an across-the-board increase in ticket prices. We didn't increase any ticket prices for 2019, and the increases for 2018 were modest. We're still crunching the numbers to see what makes sense, but expect to see that as part of the conversation during the revenue projection process. To that topic, revenue projection will be presented to the board at the December board meeting instead of the November meeting, which is a change from previous years. This allows new board members at least a small amount of time to get acclimated before they have to vote on prices. And it gives the board the opportunity to adjust revenue to accommodate additional funding needs that are discovered during the budget process.
Yeah, we should be able to present it as new business in November and then have it voted on in December.
Yes,
So
exactly.
that the seated board can be through both parts of the process, unlike past schedules. Thank you so much. Have a great year. Have a good election.
Thank you, guys. We're lucky to have such diligent treasurers watching our resources and making it understandable to us. Lynn, would you like to do the feedback report?
So I started something new a couple years ago, which was I created an online form for people to fill out, and I can then sort it out to where I think it should go. You know, certain things, as I said in the introduction, it's like, is this construction? Is this past planning? Is it bathrooms, sanitation? What is it? Everything interweaves. And I have to apologize. I tried to group a bunch of it, but it was late, and I made one typo myself. Catch it. I'm human. It's like the Irish fisherman's sweater. It's handmade. This year, you can see, it is voluminous. It is more than double the amount of feedback I have received in doing this for like 20 plus years. There is over 430 responses. Fortunately, most of it came in online, so I was not typing out all of this myself. There's the same old pieces, such as, yes, we're still complaining about cigarettes and smoking, and should there be no smoking at fair, or thank you for keeping the smoking, or we need more shady spots, more rest areas. We need more better sanitation. We need more hand washing. We also had appreciation for the new craft demo area and Saskia's Bad Advice Center. People really want that. And maybe I was just thinking, sorry, maybe that should be a Fair Family News column, but who knows? It was really interesting. And then there's the pieces every year that just give me pause and think people really kind of don't have a clue about us. Like one person said, I think we should have rest areas with air conditioning. This isn't the country fair, I'm sorry. We have a hard enough time. The other thing that I saw, sort of what struck out at me is that we have a lot, I mean, most everyone who submitted feedback, no one just vented. Often people said, this was great, I had a wonderful time, and thank you for that, and. Just to end with, as I said, there's people who gave some deep thoughts about like where we've been and where we're going. My own observation is, at our current volume of people, we're never going back to where we were 20 years ago, where we were 30 years ago. We are just too big for that. That's my opinion. On the other hand, I'm going to leave with one statement from one of the coordinators. Oh, and a big shout out, there's a lot of praise for Xanadu, about how that's just being the new, bright and lively area, and thanks for the dance pavilion. So from one coordinator, I'll just leave you with the final comment, which is partly why I put it at the end. Whatever role you play at the Oregon Country Fair, please know that you are appreciated. You play a critical role in the success of this organization, and that what you do has an impact in our community and our world. And I really appreciate that sentiment, because that's who we are at our core and what we need to do to take out with us, go to the fair, get rejuvenated, bring it back out. So thank you for letting me be part of this, and thank you for filling out the feedback. And if you see something and say, no, that really should be somewhere else, so it goes. It probably could be there too. Thank you.
Okay, so now we hear from the candidates what we're here for. First will be Diane Albino. No.
Need loud voice.
I've talked pretty loud. Can you hear me back there?
Yeah.
I can talk loud. Most of you know me. I've been around way too long, according to some people. And so instead of going on and on, I'm going to read a little something, and then we can take questions. This is from Hunter S. Thompson. Strange memories on this nervous night in Las Vegas, the Whittaker. 5 years later, 6, maybe 50. It seems like a lifetime, or at least a main era. The kind of peak that never comes again. San Francisco in the middle 60s was a very special time and place to be a part of. Maybe it meant something, maybe not in the long run. But no explanation, no mix of words or music or memories can touch that sense of knowing that you were there and alive and in that corner of time in the world, whatever it meant. History is hard to know because of all the hired bullshit. But even without being sure of history, it seems entirely reasonable to think that every now and then the energy of a whole generation comes to a head in a long, fine flash for reasons that nobody really understands at the time and which never explain in retrospect what actually happened. There was madness in any direction at any hour, if not across the bay, then up the Golden Gate or down 101 to Los Altos or La Honda. You could strike sparks anywhere. There was a fantastic universal sense that whatever we were doing was right, that we were winning. And that, I think, was the handle that sense of inevitable victory over the forces of old and evil. Not in any mean or military sense, we didn't need that. Our energy would simply prevail. There was no point in fighting on our side or theirs. We had all the momentum. We were riding the crest of a high and beautiful wave. I read that because I think that that's the fair's roots. And the fair came out of the 60s, and we're doing what we can to keep it alive. And of course, that means not fighting with ourselves either. Anyway, I'll take questions because, like I said, most already know me. Questions? Why am I still here? Please.
If you are to be elected, what is your intention with your position on the committee?
To really get the strategic plan going and to try and involve people from all parts of the fair in it.
How do you feel about raising prices again?
I hate raising prices. I hate raising prices on the volunteers especially, and because it's very expensive now. When I first came to the fair, I was very poor back in the 70s, and it was the only time of year I got to eat out, because at the food vouchers at that time would cover some meals. Now they might cover a meal, and I really don't like that we pay it apart. And I think if we're so concerned about philanthropic, supporting social justice, I think we should reconsider charging the people in the village so much money to participate, as they're all part of the social change booths, the ones that have 501c3. Anyone else? Okay.
There's someone back there.
What? Another one? Wait.
Put your hand up.
Yes, John?
How do you feel about having consistent policies about the application of board policies that apply to everyone equally?
Well, that would be really cool. Having equal policies to apply equally to everybody.
The reason I'm asking that is there seems to have been some difficulty in applications.
John, speak louder. I know you did at some meeting I was at a few months back.
The reason I'm asking is there seems to have recently been some problems with applications.
Well, I think that will come. I think that there seems to be a rush to form committees all over the place to do stuff, and I think we need to be talking about the overall picture first.
Probably 4 minutes.
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Tom Barr.
Okay. I'm Tom Barr. I volunteered for 20 years at Fair. At this point, I hope you guys have actually been listening to what's going on, so I'd like to keep it very simple and straightforward. The reason I am running for the board is to get things done. There is a lot of work that we actually have to do as we go into the future. We could list it all out now. Why bother? We can do it in the future. But the point is, a lot of work to be done. It's not currently being done, largely because we are spinning our wheels on issues which have seized the moment, but are not really positive movement forward on issues that are important, like the properties that we have just got, sustainability ideas that we have already had that need to be implemented. How do we use our green fund and peach power? We have plans. We need to put them to use. We do a lot of good stuff. It's time for us to show the good stuff and to let the rest of the community know what we can actually do. Yeah. Cool, I'll leave. All right.
going to speak for?
Sandra Bauer.
Hi, my name is Sandra Bauer, and I'm running for the board. And I've been on a number of other boards in the past, including 2 community boards, which I think run a little bit differently than a typical nonprofit board or a business board. And while I was on those boards, I learned some techniques for engaging the community and encouraging as much buy-in as is possible. I think I could bring that information to this opportunity here. As one of the fair founders, I have a deep understanding of how the fair works and how we got where we are. I don't believe we need huge systemic changes to our organization because I think we already do a lot of really right things. I do think we could improve on those things though. And I think one of the things that we could do is put together a systemic policy development that includes rules and regulations for implementing those policies. I would also like to see us put together a searchable database of current policies so that we would know where the holes are and we would know, and they would be easily accessible when we're making decisions and going through, trying to solve problems. I'm also in favor of infrastructure investment. I think we need to have more and cleaner toilets. We need to solve storage problems. We need to take better care of our facilities and our vehicles. I would like to see us increase the food voucher value, and we need to take better care of our land. I also think it's very important that we revisit the need for an affordable kitchen. That's got to be taken care of very soon. And I would also like to see us have an HR volunteer position on staff. I think that could help iron out a lot of the dissension and chaos of the last few years. And in fact, I think it's a little bit unusual that an organization of this size and complexity with this many volunteers doesn't already have that position. So basically, I think it's time to go back to basics and take care of what we already have. And then we can build on the future in a really solid way. I'm also a big proponent of education. I think we are a 501c3, and it's our obligation to educate. So I'd like to see investments in areas like Energy Park, Community Village, archaeology, crafts demonstration, the sustainability projects. I think something like that would be hugely interesting to the people who come to the fair, and we could even conceivably take something like that onto the road to take to other festivals and events where we would increase our visibility regionally and we would educate other populations and things that are important to us. So there's a lot more that can be done. If I'm elected, I promise to work collaboratively, thoughtfully, and carefully. And I thank you for all taking this so seriously, and thank you for your consideration. So, thank you.
Terry Baxter.
Hello everybody. I'm Terry Baxter, the archivist for the Country Fair, and thanks. Is it not loud enough? Sorry. And glad to be here. Glad you're all here to participate in this exercise. I guess I don't really have a lot to say about myself about the campaign. The literature's been out there, and frankly, I'm tired of campaigning. My voice is tired from a cold, so I don't have a lot to say about that particular thing. What I would like to say, though, is that I think that one of the main things that we all have to do together, and what I would do as a board member, is we need to take a look at the values that built the fair, and we need to, personally, all of us together at this moment, transform them into the future that we want to see 40 or 50 years out for our children and grandchildren. I think that's a really important exercise for us to do now in this moment. And it takes looking backwards to where we came from, but also looking forwards to where we want to go. And then I'd also like to echo Jack's comments, which is that at the end of the day, there's going to be 12 board members out there, and there's going to be crews, and there's going to be booths, and there's going to be entertainers, and there's going to be the public, and there's going to be staff. And all of us have to work together in justice and love to create the world we want to see. That's what the fair is all about. It's working together. It's not individuals. It's this whole process of community, building community and building it for the future. And so that's what I'd like to see all of us do.
Steve Berkson.
No.
Steve Berkson.
Stephen Firedick Berkson. Firedick's my fair name, but my name's Stephen. So, hi everyone. Really pleased to follow Sandra and Terry, so I could say ditto on the things that we've talked a lot. I think we do need to get back to basics. So, we're going through a lot of changes in our organization that require a lot of attention. We need good policies and procedures to function more effectively and improve the fairness, equity, and inclusiveness throughout the family. We also need long-range planning to prepare for the growing family and all the things that are changing. I've talked a lot about these things during this election. I'm not sure exactly where everyone gets their information and how many people have been able to plug into the assorted communication streams. But I've also taken opportunities like this, these few-minute things, to try and present something aspirational and share a bigger vision topic that I'm passionate about. So the bigger vision focuses on our mission to have a real impact on the world and make a better place by offering innovative ways to build community and live in harmony with our environment. To that end, I recently offered a proposal that I called Tiers of Engagement. That's T-I-E-R-S, not T-E-A-R-S. So, Tiers of Engagement. My idea is that we can build our year-round capabilities with the modern communication tools available to us and reach out to the many fair family members who find it hard to participate because of time or distance. Let's find out how much they're ready and anxious to participate if we create ways to make it easier for them to fit participating into their lives. We could get a broader sense of the will of fair family by using surveys and online gatherings to help utilize our collective wisdom a few times a year. We could perhaps have people who live far away work with other members near them on projects in keeping with our mission, the mission for the fair. We could include people through online engagement who want to devote more time but have been prevented by distance. We won't know what we can do unless we explore it. I support all our philanthropic efforts, and I've also been in contact with so many people with so many good ideas about things we can do right here with our resources to have a direct and effective impact in the world. Sustainable farming, local food production, renewable energy, recycling. Does anybody else think it's weird to take recyclable materials and ship them across the ocean? Yeah. Seems counterproductive. Does anyone in the fair family have a better idea about what the world should be doing in that area? Let's ask. Not only can we develop these alternatives, but we can also work to communicate them better far and wide. I've spoken with people about spreading the many lessons, innovations, and artistic expressions that so many of our family have to share. We can lower the barriers and provide support to help spread these things more prominently to the world. And those might be perfect projects for people who live further away. For all of these people to participate more, they need to feel appreciated and that their contributions are meaningful and valued. Isn't that the heart of our country fair community ethos? Let's spread it. We have done amazing things with the event. It reaches many people and does a great deal of good. We've also made a real difference in many lives through our philanthropy and programs like Culture Jam. Let's raise our gaze higher and look to the horizon for what we might accomplish. The world is in crisis and we really don't have time to waste. So I'd like to see us take care of a lot of things in-house, but I'd like us to look up and remember what the fair was founded on and start pursuing that and see if we can get everyone to whom it's just been too difficult to participate and find ways to get everybody included so we can make a difference. Thank you very much. In the back for Rand Burke, Stephen Fire Dick Berkson.
I couldn't hear that. George Braddock.
Good evening. I'm George Braddock, and I'm passionate about health and safety and making places that are welcoming and accessible to everyone. It has to be that way. It has to be that way, because if you don't feel safe when you come to the fair, you won't come back. So for 44 years, I have run the sauna and shower operation at the Oregon Country Fair. And over that time, I've developed deep relationships with many of the stakeholders and many individuals throughout the fair community. When the Ritz first started in 1976, we had a sauna made out of pallets that seated 25 people, and we had 10 gravity-fed cold showers. And we ran it with 6 people and a bunch of walk-up volunteers. Today, we can sauna 200 people at a time, and we have 75 hot showers and 2 deluxe tub rooms. This year, it took 150 people to run that, each doing a total of 717 individual shifts. The Ritz was the first booth that came to my attention, or came to the attention of building authorities, and they required this, believe it or not, to get permits. And then we have to pass public health inspections every year. The Ritz has changed. The fair has changed. The Ritz can't go back to doing things the way it used to, and neither can the fair. We don't live in a world of our own creation. We live in the real world, and we must comply with the rules or suffer the consequences. Doing business in the real world is complicated, and the fair has had to evolve and change to keep doing what we do and still be able to maintain the magic that inspires all of us. We're at a crossroads for how to manage these ever-changing realities. A seat on today's board of directors requires a commitment to the success of our new executive director and investing in an engagement-heavy, cultural-centric strategic planning process that will provide greater clarity and shared vision, direction, and priorities. I believe that we need strong and thoughtful, mature leadership throughout our 501c3 corporation. The new board, regardless of its composition, must find a way to work together for the good of the larger organization. Conflicting interests arise from conflicts arise from different interests are healthy and essential to having successful outcomes. Individual board members are natural advocates for their interests, giving voice to important concerns that matter to them. It is important that their points of view be heard and accounted for in the governance process. As the newly elected board works, we must compromise to these various points of view and negotiate agreeable alternatives for the good of the larger organization. We have the report and the recommendations of the NAO as a starting point. The board needs to understand what it means to exercise governance, the power, and understand its limitations. I believe it is important that we review this report in an inclusive and transparent process involving the membership who are directly affected by the decisions over the long haul. The outcomes must be seen as a success on their terms. Meaningful involvement by stakeholders translates into personal ownership of the outcome. I don't think anyone who has watched me serve on the board realizes that I'm a thoughtful person and I'm a good listener. I don't rush to judgment. I have extensive experience in getting to yes. I have spent personal time with every member of the current board and found common ground with each of them on issues that challenge and face at the fair. Although I don't always agree with them, I am respectful and listen with an open mind, and I'm open to compromise. I would like to continue in my service to the organization as a board member and would appreciate your vote. Understanding this organization is a deep learning curve, and I have made it my business to try to understand it. I've served on the Budget Committee and the Long-Term Financing Group in that effort. Thank you.
John Chewy Burgess.
Hi, my name's John Chewy Burgess. I'm again asking for your support in representing all of the Fair family on the board of directors. I've served several terms in the near recent past. One of the reasons I'm running again is the NAO, as it was presented, I voted against it. I believe I was one of the few people that voted against it because there was no policies and procedures in place to implement it. That doesn't mean that I like everything in it, and it doesn't mean I hate everything in it. But when you are dealing with a group of people that's approximately 14,000 fair members and past people, we can't just do this willy-nilly. We have to look at this. We have to think about what we're doing. One of my other really strong goals is to get back to a sustainable fair. We've lost that vision. We changed our mission statement a few years ago, and above all, a reverence for the land disappeared. And being a original Vegemanic, as long there's a few people in here that are original Vegemanics, I can tell you, I think that we need to get back to thinking about how we deal with the land and what our impacts are. And that's not just where we walk, because if I walk up and down this line 100 times, I'm going to wear a groove in the floor. But if that's where the groove is, let's go with the groove. Not go all over the place and do things willy-nilly. I'd like to see us think about each other. I think Jack's opening comments here about trying to get back to being, I'm paraphrasing Jack, getting back to being family. The nastiness is got to end. It has to stop. And I've tried to stay out of a lot of it. I've tried to answer some questions. I haven't answered every question. I'm more than willing to talk to anybody. Anyone who knows me knows that I have opinions and I'm willing to share them. And at the same time, like George, I'm willing to listen and hear other people's points of view, and my mind has been changed. So I just am asking for your support. I want to see this fair go forward, and policies and procedures are one of the most important things we need to do to implement policies and procedures that we can all agree with. So I appreciate your time. I don't know if I have any time for a question. Okay, any questions real quick? I'll take one. Go ahead.
What do you mean by returning to sustainability for the fair?
For me, returning to sustainability is the idea of sustainability. The sustainability has changed from what it was 50 years ago. But with that as a conscious effort going forward for sustainable now is different than it was 50 years ago. It's different than it was 20 years ago. It's different than it was yesterday. Sustainability is a constantly morphing process. Like the river, it changes. The land has changed. We have to accept the change and have a plan of how to implement a sustainable plan. going forward. So the answer to your question directly is coming up with a plan for sustainability and going back to that route. That's my answer. Thank you very much. I hope for your support. Again, John Shuey Burgess. Thank
you. Lisa Cooley.
Hi, guys. Like raise one arm and the other arm and hug your neighbor. Get to know each other. I've seen you guys all on the 8th, and I know you've seen me on the 8th. And we will be back on the 8th again, right? I hope. I know we will. I'm extremely nervous. Just so you know. I don't even know why I'm running, because I'm so scared right now, but I do know why I'm running. I have it written like, because I'm from the 80s, a cheat sheet on my hand, a Sharpie. Come off by like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Could you step up more into the center?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Can
It's
you
really
hear
hard
me?
to hear.
Can you see me?
It's the hearings.
I hear you.
Thank you.
I hear you. I have a hard time hearing also. Sorry if I'm yelling in your ear. Okay, so on my cheat sheet, I say we, as part of our crew and a bunch of the people that I've worked with for many, many years, 26 years at the country fair now, have worked towards positive change, and I feel like I've been a really positive role model for change. I believe in change, and I believe in thoughtful, well thought out plans. Back to the cheat sheet. I told you guys I'm super nervous. I'm like shaking nervous. So, sustainability. I'm so glad that I'm not the first person that had to talk tonight, because they've hit on a lot of the points that I believe in wholeheartedly. I think I'm a unique voice and a unique difference. I've never run for the board. I've never been on the board, especially of a 503(c) of this size, for sure. I own my own. We go to Uganda. We go to Uganda 4 or 5 times a year, and I work with human trafficking. So it's a whole different type of 503(c), and this is the family that I love, and I want to see us get back on track. And I echo Jack, kindness to each other, not name calling. We've got gentler ways to move forward, and there is a path to forward. And I know that if we use our empathetic listening skills, we can get there. I know we can. So let's be wise, let's be confident, let's be comfortable in our own skin, and let's talk to everybody and love each other. And I want you all to hug each other again, and I'll take questions. I'm too nervous to talk. Questions? Yes, sir. I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
As the leader of a nonprofit, what do you think management's role should be in the organization?
Oh, I think management is highly valuable. I think if we hire the right people. I'm sorry, I was walking backwards. Okay. Just so I'm trying to be heard. I think management is highly valuable. I think that we have to hire really good people to run it. I think that the board puts together, at least in my nonprofit, what we do is we have a really good board of directors, and we hire people, and we put those policies in place, and we expect the management to help us implement those policies and oversee and make sure that it happens. And I think that you can't run a successful business without having good managers in place, period. I do believe that we do have to have some HR level help here in this particular Oregon Country Fair. I think it's vital that we do that.
Yep.
Would that be a payroll?
Say that again?
Is that a payroll, that HR role?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that particular part of that. I'd have to look into it with a plan and thoughtfulness. Yes, ma'am.
What committees are you on?
None.
Which ones would you want to be on?
I have been on the food committee in the past. That's it. Thanks, Annie M.
Como Gustafson. Gustafson.
Go for Como.
I hope everybody can hear me as I speak. I feel like I'm better off up in front of everybody and sitting in the middle because half the crowd won't hear me as well as the other half. So I'm Como Gustafson. I'm running for the board of directors for the Oregon Country Fair. I'm glad to see this process coming close to being over here real quick. It's been really hard on me, and I'm sure most of you, to witness the amount of discord we've experienced throughout this process. Something that I don't feel was absolutely necessary. People have different views, people have different opinions, and no matter how much effort we put into something, even though we might think that the way we've been doing it is the right way, it may not always be that way. And this is one of those circumstances or situations where we have the opportunity to step up, and if we feel like things have been done a little bit differently than they should have, and that's not to say that we shouldn't be approaching or going through these changes that we're going through as an organization, but to reevaluate how we're going to go through that process. And it's kind of like a repeating record. The processes and the procedures to implement those policies and the procedures to implement those policies are something that have kind of been lacking and have been selectively chosen which are going to be implemented and which aren't without those procedures in place. And it's really kind of created a lot of nervousness within membership. And there's a better way to approach this. There's a better way to do it. There's priorities that need to be focused on initially, and we need to go through them. Somebody who would be new on a nonprofit board, I understand that there's a learning curve associated with it, but at the same time, I also understand that regardless of how much experience you have on a board, anytime you step back into a position, you're always going to be on that learning curve. There's a never-ending process of learning how to do things and do things better. And as far as where I'm at on that curve, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be able to go through the experience. The hard work that's associated with everything that we have to do, I believe most of it, anyway, personally, is the amount of time and effort and dedication that's going to take to get the job done that needs to be done. Other than that, it's common sense. And listening to the membership as we go through the steps and the processes to develop these policies. So anyhow, there's many other things that we get to look forward to doing. Lots of things that I think we need to focus more on sustainability as well. There's a lot of projects I think that we can embark on that would be good for us and everybody else too. That being said, I hope I get your vote if you haven't voted already. And I look forward to the opportunity to be able to represent you, the membership, and our organization. Thank you. I got 1 minute, so one question, I guess. Any questions?
What do you feel about buying more and more land to have more and more cars parked?
Okay.
And how about renting the train instead?
Sure. I think that there's a lot of options that we can look at. And I think that goes back to the reverence of the land. I've heard that mentioned a couple of times already. It's important. One of the things that we may end up having to do around the corner is reevaluate our mission statement and then see where it lines up with where we're at and where we're wanting to go. And I think that when we get to that point, I think it's important that we bring reverence to the land back and put it back into the mission statement. I think that's really, really important. There are ways that we can, fix the parking issue or make it better. All of us have brains. We can put our thoughts together and figure out a solution that's going to make things better for us and the land. So, thank you.
Paxton Hogue.
Hi all. I've been at the fair since the beginning. I worked on the 1969 one, so it's been an amazing journey, and I really appreciate it. One of the things that's really important to me is respect in this organization, and I've seen some of that fail recently, and I think we can get back to being a respectful organization. I really believe in the three-chip interaction. Get the work done, treat each other with respect, and have fun. I think that's a mainstay of this organization. I want to like to continue that. I support a move to a policy governance board. A policy governance board spends its time getting super clear about what our values are and what end results we want. About our values, who we are, what we are doing, where we are going, and why we are here. I think that's a very important discussion that we need to have. I helped start broadcasting or narrowcasting the board meetings. Excuse me, I'm running out of breath. And I want to use that similar technology to restart our board member workshops so that remote people can log in and that we can set it up on a regular schedule for discussion. The NAO recommendations needs several discussion work groups to see what we want to adopt and what we don't want to adopt. It was a really wide-ranging report. I view it as very valuable, and I think that gives us a starting point for where we're going. I would like to see humanoir toilets in the campgrounds. We had an experiment this year with the one company that provides humanoir toilets in the fair, and it was very lightly used. I think the major need for toilets like that is actually in our campground areas and to take the load off for our family. Anyway, we can then reuse it. I really support expanding our solar array. I'm looking forward to, I'm working on helping build or start the compost barn project, and I hope that we can put a large solar array on the roof of that. It's actually well into the planning process. I've been working on that. I support an upland kitchen, and I really would like to see that happen. I've been saying that for 12 years, and it's a long, hard project. We're well on the way, but at this point in time, we're kind of stymied, and I want to start that up again. I believe executive sessions should only be used for personnel, real estate, and legal issues. I have never called an executive session, though I've participated in many that I think are an important part of the fair. It's an important part of management of the fair. I'm not sorry to buy land. They don't make more of it. Well, we use it for the new purchase for parking. In reality, it gives us a whole future potential of an area that we could do other things. I've been fantasizing about a fall fair, a small fall fair over on that property. Anyway, there's a lot of things that we can do. We need to have a work session to sit down and talk about it. We have about 3 different reports that we could present about that piece of property, and we need to have a discussion on direction of where we're going with that. I'm not a fan of more rules and regulations. I'm sorry. I'd rather we work together and solve problems rather than try and set down guidelines and rules and stuff like that where we could, anyway, I'd rather us work together. And I believe in long-range planning, and a strategic plan would be really good, in my opinion. I think that's an important part of what we need to do for the future. Thank you.
Justin Hona.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again. I love the annual meeting, and I'd like to start out, take a little bit of my time just to offer up thanks and praise. I think, thanks and praise to the election committee annually for doing this. Thank you for that voluminous feedback. If there's any indication of our passion as an organization, that's a great indicator right there. And as we look around as an organization and through this election process, which everyone's different, and this would be my 4th election process, huge thank you to all the passion, all the stuff that gets out there. Get out the vote for being here and helping us do this. All the volunteers that put this on tonight. In my role in the fair, I might be a puppy in this room. I'm only coming up on 30 years working for the fair. 29, I think it is, at this point. And I think we need to remind ourselves, this is an intentional community that we have here. It's an opportunity to buy into rejuvenation of love and spirit. And that's what got me hooked on this organization. In my real life, I'm a manager, but I always looked at this event as an opportunity to recharge my batteries, to go to committees, to do things. One of my big charges is I love being in an organization in positions where I can affect positive change. The board, at times, has allowed me to do that. Being a coordinator of booth registration has allowed me to do that. One of the beauties of our organization, from coordinators to all throughout the volunteers through committees, if you want to get involved, show up. And if you show up, there's somebody that's glad to see you, right? We may have different opinions at the end of the day, but we should be able to find ways to keep moving the ball forward. I'm a big change guy. I want to look forward. I don't want to look back. I don't want to look back and say, we did this wrong or we did this wrong. If we did something wrong, let's analytically look at it and figure out how to fix it. But let's not stop progress. Let's not stop progress to the sense that we are here trying to go forward. Embrace change where it occurs. We are trying to all get closer as a community. There's database projects out there. There's opportunities for people to reach out, more emails, more committees, trying to bring people in and listen to your voice. That's amazing. It's what's got me hooked on this organization for as long as I have been. And as I look around the fair, once again, this is an intentional community. We choose to do this. If you choose not to, I chose to run again. It hasn't been a great couple years. But here I am. And I'm here because I believe in us. And I believe in the opportunity to serve this organization with all the other stuff we have going on in our lives. So with that, as I look around for the organization, I'm running for the board because we are, as I've said, in the middle of a very transitional time within our organization to a government policy-driven policy, stakeholders, strategic plan. Those are the catchphrases for this election. And as we look across all the opportunities, I say that if we have anything that I think hinders us as an organization, it's so much passion and so many things that so many people want to do right now. And as a board member, I get it. We had things coming at us so fast with, you got to do this now. We as an organization need to come together and figure out what our priorities are. And that needs to be a very transparent, inclusive process to figure out what these are. But I could name top 10 items that I bet a lot of people in here would rally again that that's what we got to do. But I challenge you to say, in a transparent process, 3, 4 at the tops is all we as an organization of volunteers can handle. They got to be the right ones. And this room and our family needs to come to the point that they say, man, mine didn't make the list this year. Long-term planning, strategic planning, work plan, whatever you want to call it, it's a focusing. We only have so many laser beams that we as a board can focus on. We need to come together and figure out what those 3 or 4 things are. And once we figure that out, let's go all in. Let's get some shit done. Because we're getting too many things thrown at us and nothing's getting done. And if we can rally behind and accept that maybe your issue wasn't the issue of the year or the moment, maybe we can get some things done. I really hope that some of you still haven't filled out your ballots out here, and you check for me, Justin. I appreciate it. I look for your vote. Thank you very much.
Palmer Parker. Thank goodness.
Hello, familiar faces. Palmer Parker, I would feel remiss if I didn't add some other things like Silver Fox, Silver Poodle, Domino's Delivers. I've done a whole lot of things. I have no artistic ability whatsoever. I can't sing, I can't dance. That leaves me staff positions. I've done a bunch of staff positions over time. I haven't finished yet. I am an elder, but not in retirement yet. I've been on the board 7 times before. This will be the 8th if you choose to put me back on it. I think that George, I don't know where you are in this mass of people, but you're...
He just left.
Thank you, George. His story of the sauna starting and growing is so analogous to the fair starting and growing. And Justin probably left as well, but his transitional statement, I think, is very important. The board has always theoretically been a policy board, and I see policy and governance as being fairly similar, and I think we need to move that way. People have talked about implementing policies and procedures that don't exist at the moment. I think that there are policies that the governance board should work towards setting, and we have crew and paid staff to actually do the procedures. Procedures is much more operations. Someone gave me the term fairly recently of team fair, and that's us as a chosen family coming together, and my brain takes it one step further to team more than fair. Family isn't always pretty, Lord knows, but you're part of it, and you got to work through stuff. Beto, I think you were the one that asked about buying more land for parking. You damn betcha I want to buy more land. And if we park on it for a week and a half and it does nothing for decades to come, win. Coming up with a better use for that kind of thing, also a good idea. I think we need 2 caretakers. I would like to see us move in that direction. I really hope this 4 minutes is up soon. I can take questions, and that takes up part of my 4 minutes. We're a family, folks, and there's been some real ugliness, and I would like to see that modify into useful behavior. I believe that executive sessions, formerly known as closed sessions, are necessary for the 3 reasons Paxton mentioned, and I personally think that's the reason so many of them happened in the last year. I would like to believe that things will mellow out on that, and time spent in closed session can turn into board work sessions, which we used to have a lot of. Sue's yawning, I'm done.
For 40-plus years, I have watched us have such a difficult interpersonal relationship. I look to the board, and nobody has ever said that is our first role, to make interpersonal relationships focus smoothly so we can make decisions and carry them out. Please, you've been here. You know what I'm saying. Speak to that.
I do, and I thank you, because I meant to mention humanistic intervention training, which is, as you know, 3-ship interaction, coming together, working together. Mermaid, who probably left, and I, for 5 years or so, I co-taught newbie intervention training. You got to communicate, and you got to know where you're headed and respect the other person. I do that the best I can. I'm a carbon-based unit too. And we're all works in progress, but yeah. Do you? Did I communicate? Thank y'all.
Don Silverman.
to speak loud enough so folks in the back can hear me. If the membership honors me with another term on the board, my main priorities are going to be to make sure, number one, that our new executive director is successful in his position. Number two, that the things we wrote into that job description, calling for participatory management style, calling for collaboration, calling for making sure that stakeholders have a say in how the decisions are being made, that those are manifested not only by the executive director, but by our entire staff. I also have as a priority what many other folks have said is the strategic planning process. We need a process that's inclusive, that can look at what are our values, to reaffirm our values. I'm not sure that we all agree on what our values are. That's the first thing that we need to do. We need to look at what do we want to accomplish as an organization, and as a family, so that we can put some goals in place, and then we can have our operations and our volunteers and our coordinators and our crafters and our entertainers working towards achieving those goals and manifesting them. I think it's going to be very important to look at issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And how do we make our event a safe and comfortable place for those people who do not feel safe and comfortable currently at our event? People of color, members of the LGBTQ community, alter-able folks, and many women. They do not feel safe and comfortable at our event. We need to figure out how to turn that around, and that's going to take transformative work. We need to look at growth. Are we going to continue to grow and get more and more people? How do we accommodate that? How do we manage our growth? Do we continue to let folks have large camping areas? There's limits to what we can do with that land, and we need to respect that land. And it's going to be a very difficult conversation to have. Those are my priorities moving forward, and I'll take questions. I guess I won't take questions. Thank you.
John Steinhardt.
John's not in town.
What? John what?
John Steinhardt. Okay. Sue Theolis.
Thank you. I wasn't yawning at you. I've had a long, hard week, and Ireland got stomped by the All Blacks. It's a sad day in rugby land. Hi, I'm Sue Theolis, and the first thing I need to do, because this is the first opportunity I've had to do it, is to thank you. The first day of baseball season, I took a really nasty fall. I broke my first bone, got a concussion. I was out of it for a few months. There are days that I'm still out of it a little bit. Concussions are weird. I nearly didn't do fair this year because I wasn't sure I could pull it off. I wasn't sure that I could focus well enough. I had so many doubts. But I went because I'm a crafter and we're strong. There are people all over this room who came to my booth to see if I needed anything. They brought me a drink. They brought me a snack. They helped me get around a little bit. All of that contributed to my very first, and I certainly hope not the only one, stress-free fair.
What's that?
It was such a gift. Those of you who are crafters can understand part of that. It was really such a gift. I'm really glad to see so many people here because I am convinced that we work best when we work together. We can look each other in the eyes, we can talk, we can hear the tone of our voice, we can see the smile on our face, the twinkle in our eyes. We get a chance to re-ask the question. We're so much better doing this together than sitting in our rooms and keyboarding on Facebook because Facebook is not our friend, unless it's your birthday. So, I've been on the board before. I currently serve on a number of committees. Those committees are incredible. Food Committee is doing some really wonderful work right now, and the food booths are right there with us. It's going to mean a lot of nice improvements over the next few years. I think our major things, long-range planning, sustainability. Sustainability includes needing to take a long, hard look at our growth and what that growth is doing to our infrastructure and what that growth is doing to our land. In my booth, we have a sapling. I'm on East 13th. It's about yay tall now. Her name is Jennifer. She's a dear member of our booth, and we nurture her because we don't know that there are very many saplings of that size on East 13th. So we maintain the couple of green spaces we have in our booth. It means our camping's a little tighter, but we have green space for the future, and that's what we're for. Yay, future. Let's get there. Let's work together, because I'll tell you, folks, I became an elder, and then a decade ago I became a juried crafter and almost fell over when that happened because I'd been trying for a long time. I've seen what's happened to the fair over the last 30-some years. Nothing fills me with more heartness than to get together with folks, set a goal, work together, and achieve that goal together. And I think that's something this family is incredibly capable of. And in fact, it's the only thing that has kept us going for 50 years. So please, when you think of your fellow fairy, do it with love. Do it with an open heart, an open mind. And like this man over here said, team more than fair. We need it. We really do. We want to be here in 50 years, although some of us it'll be through our kids and nieces and nephews and strangers we've picked up along the way. Thank you all. It would really be an honor to serve. I think it's important that somebody from Booth World be on the board, whether it's me or somebody who could run in the future, because right now it's me. But I would really appreciate the opportunity to be back on the board and help for the entire fair, as well as be able to express the views of the folks in Booth World. Do I have time for questions, Jack?
One minute.
Okay, questions? Any? Going once, going twice. Everybody look each other in the eyes and smile. Thank you.
With that, we've concluded with, oh, is there a nomination from the floor?
Yes.
Where?
I'd like to nominate Martha Evans for the Board of Directors.
I second.
Thank you, sir. Alan Gross nominated, and
Ren Davidson. Ren Davidson.
Ren Davis.
Second.
Second.
Great. I knew this was going to happen. My name's Martha Evans. I came to my first fair in 1978 when dear Mary Wagner handed me a T-shirt and said, "Go home and get your sleeping bag." And I believe that tradition of sneaking into the fair once long ago is an honorary one. I also helped start the original fresh squeeze orange juice cart. I spent many years in Community Village, in Peace and Justice. I was coordinator of the neighborhood response team, the second coordinator, and did that for 10 years. And most recently, I've been a mediator as part of the camping crew. I was on the board for 3 terms in the mid-90s and facilitated the board meetings for, I don't know, I think about 2 years before Sam started doing it again. I was one of the originators of Culture Jam and got to work there for 3 years, and it's one of my proudest accomplishments is bringing fair values into the youth of not only our state, but from all over the country. I'd like to talk a little bit about my vision of the fair of the future. I see a time when we are working together again, moving the organization forward with joy on paths consistent with our values and with our past. I see us flourishing under the leadership of our executive director, and I see the board loving its policy-setting governance role, enjoying that, being creative. I'm with Palmer. Historically, we always made a decision that we were not, when I was on it, we were careful not to get involved in operations, and that's very tempting. It takes a lot of discipline for people as dedicated to the day-to-day work of the fair to step back, but it's an important role to be able to set those policies. I hope that the board, I believe I would see a fair where communication is improved, the board is more overt in its decision-making, holding fewer executive sessions, and when there is one, again in the past, the board used to tell us what it was about. Real estate matter, personnel matter. It gave us some idea of what was going on. There's nothing illegal with saying that's the topic. And again, it helps us understand some of the process of what's happening. I think that when I was on the board, was when we first started having work sessions. I remember the one when we decided to have wristbands, and what a controversy that was. But what a wonderful process it was to be together at the Presbyterian Church talking about the pros and cons and moving forward. I also certainly agree with long-term planning, looking at growth, internal growth, external growth, looking at the youth and young adults, how to integrate them into the fair, and what this does to the land. I would also agree with the other people who said work sessions on the NAO reports. I also want to say that my future fair would not include political parties or subgroups. I find them a detriment to the fair. There's a psychological concept called participation mystique. It refers to a group consciousness and the positive sense you get from being part of something with people who share that care. Go Ducks is one example. The people who get together to listen to Sanders on the debate and listen together with co-supporters. It's a great feeling, and we all have that toward the fair. We wear our t-shirts, we keep our wristbands on from fair to fair, we keep the stickers on the car because we want to know, we see other people, cars, I honk at cars when I see the vehicle sticker because I know it's a friend, it's part of my group. I think when you have a subgroup, it pulls away from that and asks for an allegiance to something other than this wonderful big organism that we are part of and share. So I think it's certainly possible to have controversy, to have different positions. When you have ideas about how to improve the fair, bring them to the fair as a whole. If you have individual candidates you want to support those candidates. But signing, it felt a little like it might be a loyalty oath that I promised to stick with these people no matter what. I don't think that's helpful to us as a family, as Team Fair. I want us to learn to work together, to recognize each other as part of the same wonderful organism called the fair, to act on our own values and principles when voting. I'm a trained mediator. I would bring those skills I have in helping people in conflict to the board and to the fair. I'm sorry I got into this so late, but I would request your vote. Martha, M-A-R-T-H-A, Evans, E-V-A-N-S. Thank you.
This is official.
The minutes will reflect.
There won't be any minutes. And could you sign a second, please?
Anywhere?
Yeah. Okay, with that, we conclude, and we had our 50th, and I can't express enough gratitude for all the help, for all that people did to make the 50th a real celebration. The community came out in droves, the music was terrific. It was us at our finest. It was, I would hope that starting the next 50 years, whoever comes to be on any boards in the future, that the value was so evident that we are established within the community and the community supports us, and moving forward with expanding our reach as a state organization and the year-round organization being more of a point where people can come together with diverse opinions and support the arts and education in Oregon. Thank you.
The other side of the world. Righty.